I am Hervé Brunto. I work for Orange France. So it's a telecommunication company, and I have a few figures. I won't get into the details of the figures. It's not the purpose of the presentation, but just know that we have a few million clients. We operate all around the world. You see, with the presence in colorful is where we operate the network, and we operate services all around the world. And let me introduce to Remy.
So hello, my name is Remy Sissi. I'm an architect at Octo Technology. So we're a consulting company delivering various projects from consulting to implementation and a lot of big data. Voilà.
That's good. Good introduction. So, why are we here? We wanted to talk to you about our journey to Hadoop. So, I am in charge of the skill center for our Orange France, data warehouse, and Hadoop skill center. So originally, only data warehouse. So that's why my first slide represents the data warehouse. I mean, we started by that. A data warehouse with everything about our customers in it, and we needed to do quality of service, mobile quality of service for those customers. So we started loading usage data into the data warehouse. So we get that data, it's detailed data, so kind of huge data. We produce aggregates on that data, which are linked to the CRM, and all this goes to call centers and analysts. Basically, you have the analysts crawling the data, trying to find patterns, device problems, and so on. And you have all the call centers that are capable to drill down to the customer's problem directly. Okay? So, in terms of technology, what we did is we have the raw data on the left. We use AB Initio as an ETL program to load it into Teradata. So we got all the detailed information. Then we use SPSS to transform that data into aggregates and to find insights with SPSS. And you have the operational systems that connect to the data at the right of the slide. It really works fine. I mean, this project has been live for like 3 years now. It's working really well. But we have 8 days of historical data, which represents almost 15 terabytes. But the business wants more. I mean, 8 days, they would like 30 days, they would like 2 months, 3 months, 8 months. So they want more. And I mean, the return on investment on Teradata is not so sure because you have 8 days, not enough. If you want to go 30 days, then it's way too expensive. Okay, so the return on investment is really fading away. And last, we did not find new use cases with that data on Teradata. So we were imagining that maybe there are many other ways to crawl the data, to find insight into the data in another platform. But for that, we go back to the first step. We need more data. Okay? So with that set up, we went to Hadoop.
And that's the point where we came start working with Hervé and a team at Orange. So the solution we came with still had the data warehouse because it's a relevant solution for what they do, and as Hervé told, it works properly. But for the data, the big datas, we put the Hadoop cluster at this point. So the usage data came by on the Hadoop cluster. Then all the detailed data stay in the cluster, and the aggregates will have to go in the data warehouse, so they can be served to the call centers and analysts and others. So that's the big picture of what we plan to do. The main goal was not to move too many things at once, actually. So it's an engineering project. It's not a project where you change everything and the analyst and consultant will have to work in different ways. It's not the point. So in terms of technologies, this was new questions, mainly because the new data, so ab initio went out of the picture, and so we worked with Uzi as a replacement, but the question was how to bring the data with Uzi, from Uzi, this data, bring it to the cluster as raw data, or should we use specific workflows using Hive, using Pig, or using MapReduce directly? We didn't know at this time. We had another issue with the filter, transform, and aggregate part with ESPCS because it works with SQL, generate SQL requests. Okay, what tool on Hadoop can do the job? Is Hive enough? Should we look for something else? So it's another question we had. And for the data, the aggregated data in a Teradata, so it's a small amount of data. The business applications can use it, but to get the detailed data, not the raw one, the detailed data are now in Hadoop, and it's a large volume. And some business apps doesn't have 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 40 minutes to wait for getting an answer. So we had to find a solution to get an answer very quickly on a large amount of data. So this was the third question. It appeared that we had actually two types of SQL access, both for aggregate the data and for detailed data. The way to access the data is through SQL. But we have the batch-oriented type of access. So because we need to process huge amount of data, it's a case for the detailed data, but also for the Uzi part to bring the data in the cluster. And the other one is interactive access. Interactive access is for the business app that comes to the Hadoop cluster. It's not the same tools. What we did is that we selected several tools on Hadoop, so Hive, Phoenix, and HBase, and we assessed the tools against a representative subset of queries that were actually running in production with the previous solution. And these queries had to be representative in the sense that we wanted it to be complex, use the various SQL and joins and other specific statements that could be a problem. So Hive is good. The SQL support is good. The problem with Hive is for the interactive queries. It's slow. It's just too slow. Even if you put the ORC and ORC and all the optimization, it's too slow. So we cannot use it. It was not relevant for the detailed data accessed from the business apps. So we look at Phoenix. At that time, it's 1 year ago, Phoenix so had a poor SQL support, no joins, and a lot of other things were missing. That's a pity because interactive queries were great. Eventually, we came with Simba HBase. Actually, it has a good SQL support. The interactive queries run okay. For batch large processing, it's not the good solution, but it doesn't matter since Hive does the job. So we started using Simba for access to the detailed data from the business apps. The chosen technology, so the picture looks like that now. You have the new data, comes to Uzi. Uzi will bring it to the cluster. We have two ways to access the data. Hive, especially for SPSS, and HBase Simba for the business app when they need to drill down into the detailed data.
Okay.
At this point, we had the first picture, and
Okay, so the thing is, based on that, we built our first project in Hadoop. So it's a migration from the previous project, but we have it. We had a few problems to do it, but it's done. So now new questions are coming, and we were, thinking about evolving from that single use case architecture to something bigger. Some people call it data lake. Well, why not? That's the question we had. But we had many challenges to do that. First of all, is how do you secure performance for everybody? That means that if you have a cluster, you have to be able to share the resources, correctly. You don't want to have someone just taking all the resources and not leaving anything else to the rest of the people. So you have to do something for that. Then you have very high security needs. So data we are manipulating is highly sensible. Very important. It's details on customers, where they are, what they're doing, so on. So we just can't let that, go anywhere. Then if you allow people to come and manipulate data on your system, you have to provide them with the right tools. And not everybody has a population of data scientists that can do Python with files and so on. They want tools. So it's a very big pain to find the good tools for the people because it's not that mature. And eventually, since you have an architecture that people really like and want to use, you have a problem of availability. You have to avoid every single point of failure on your architecture. So that's also another part of the complexity of the project. So you have a big elephant. That's just to say, well, the ecosystem is very, very rich. And when you come from the business intelligence, as I do, things are quite, not that simple, but you find your way. When you come to Hadoop, you have names. Actually, I'd like to know who chooses the names of the projects. That's an interesting point. But you have, plenty of names, plenty of projects. You have to choose. And moreover, when you have chosen the projects, you have to find support for it. Because we want to run an application. It's enterprise application, so we definitely need support. We're not geeks, we need help. So our choice was to use a Hortonworks data platform. Open source, and you have support. So that's the reason why, the main reason. And I will let Remy go a little more into detail on that.
Yeah, thank you. On the Hortonworks platform, there's a lot of things. And even further, previous year, there was a lot of new features arrived. At first, we just used, we took it because it sticks to the latest version. So our thinking was that it's better to have the latest version, so we can have bug fixes with the latest features, and might be useful. Once we move to the data lake plan, we had to use a lot of other components. Like the governance part, for example, was mostly out of scope for the project we talked about before. It arrived with a data lake and the challenges that Hervé talked about. It's like for Pig was out of the picture and eventually came in. It also came in because SPSS didn't support Hive SQL requests, so we had to rewrite a lot of requests at the end, but it's another story. HBase came into the picture, it's still into the picture. We tried to avoid it actually because too many components, could be hard to manage, but there was no choice, as I told you, Symbage base and was the only solution for interactive queries. For the security part, now we are still we had to include step by step new components. So the Falcon is not okay, but the Nogs, the Rangers, it's things we have to look at. The Kerberos is put a lot of constraint when you enable it. So yeah, it's
few constraints on the
few constraints and a lot of thinking
just
before doing it.
Yeah, for the question, we went to a conference with my boss in the US, Hadoop conference, and we went on the expo, and went to see all the vendors, and okay, well, very good product, a good demo of the product, and how do you support Kerberos? Kerberos. Well, it's in the roadmap. We might do it someday, and okay, so that's. I mean, as I told you, security is a very big issue for us, so we really need that. So you have to find the tools that are compliant with Kerberos, and it's not always easy.
So at first, when we first assessed the platform as from an operation standpoint, we pointed more than 10 SPOF. It was not acceptable according to the fact that as a data lake, it's a shared platform, so it's more critical than just one application. So how to deal with it? At first, we thought that with Ambari, we could manage component of Ambari, we could deal with most of the issues. Actually, it's not the case. There are still some external components you have to deal with. There are even also the gateways, for example, the HBase, Thrift, REST gateways, the HTTPS gateway. If you put high availability on your HDFS, you have to deal with it outside of Ambari. So it's not the only unique answer that will manage your whole cluster. No, it's one solution that will simplify most of the management of the cluster, but you still have to manage the rest besides. And beside of it, there are other issues with Yarn, not in a high availability, Uzi and Hive and others. So for each component, we had to think about how important is it versus the effort to fix the issue, because it's simpler when you have something running on a VM than on a physical server. So we had SPOF and fixed it along the way, along the releases. Another big issue was how to track the user activity. So the only answer is Kerberos for the strong authentication. For the authorization, it's a bit more complex. Depends on the component. Eventually, we had some issues because of a functional gap between different solutions. Not all of them, in our case, are in the Hadoop, in the HTTP stack. Especially tools like SPSS and other tools that you have to take into account as a third-party tools. They don't link with Kerberos like Yarn will do, like Hive will do. So we have to take everything into account, and sometimes to choose that, eventually it will not be as managed. We won't track it as well as we should. We will have to use Citrix and reconcile some logs and others. An example for a third-party tool to get the traceability from end-to-end traceability. This tool used the local Unix account for it's like a BI tools. You have the desktop version, you have the desktop stuff, and you have the *-server version, and then this server version will communicate with the databases. So for this tool, the good point was that it had local Unix account. The editor told us, no, we do not support it. No way. We support Hive 11. Okay, it's 13 now. what can we do? Nothing. So we had to think about how it works, to look at the tool by ourselves, and we eventually discovered that the local Unix account are the account that they are using for their user on their desktop, and so and that we could change some stuff in the user cron tab, and we can manage to get some Kerberos ticket available all the time for every user that can possibly log in on this server. So it's not clean, but it works, because when you communicate with the Hadoop cluster using either the HBase Simba driver or the Hive driver or the BC driver, it will take the account of you will take the token of your user or your local account and use it, so you can have a full traceability. It's not the case for all the tools. We tested many other tools, and honestly, most of them we either don't have the full end-to-end, or it just doesn't support it, and there is no way to get it work properly. A third step was to prevent users from accessing prohibited data. So we decided to work on 3 main principles and wrote some documentation before doing it, just to think a bit about how it will be done. Since we have different users and data sets from different teams, and they do not have to share some data can be shared, etc. So we had to take everything into account. We chose to consider it on a per storage service basis, because when you manage a database, you have for example, for Teradata, for example, so it's SQL, it's tables, it's databases. You will have grant, revoke, and you can manage your access for the database. When it's for a Hadoop cluster, at least in our case, we had HDFS, Hive, and HBase, but we thought about, what about Accumulo? What about and Storm and Spark and others when we integrate new components? What about Solar, and how to manage the security and the access? So we chose to work on a per storage service. The HDFS has its own, Hive, HBase, etc., and we just add new rows. So we modeled the security after the least common denominator, just for the sake of simplicity. The problem with that is that you lose some maybe some more fine-grained functionality on one specific project, but it's much simpler to operate and to follow when you have a project using the whole 3 services with many users and many different groups, roles and others. It's much simpler. And we only manage at high level. Database for Hive, namespaces for HBase, and groups for HDFS, mapped on directories. So at first, the least common denominator we had was the permissions, the HDFS standard POSIX permissions. It works as long as you can say, okay, for this project, everybody will have write access. Every member of the team will have write access. The rest of the world will have read access. It works for HDFS, for Hive. For HBase, it's the SEL on a database basis, on a table basis. When you have a project coming, say, okay, I don't want everybody to have read access. I want only one specific person or one subgroup to have read access. You have a problem. So you can duplicate data, or try something else, the SELs. This is a time when we increase in version, migrate to HDP 2.1, so we can get ACLs on HDFS. So we tried to implement it along with the SQL, the new SQL authorization model of Hive, and HBase got ACL per namespaces. So we said, okay, let's use ACL everywhere. It turns out that it doesn't work. ACL and HDFS actually were not incompatible with Hive. The implementation didn't work. For Hive, it was not able to see the ACL of HDFS. So okay, and we discovered some bugs in the way ACLs are handled in HDFS. It's fixed now, but we already migrate to a new version, so we have to wait the time to migrate to the next major version. So problem with HDFS. With Hive, the SQL auth was not working. The grant revoked. It was only on table and not on database. It was not propagated. The user, the role and groups were not bound to the one existing in our Kerberos, in our LDAP directory. So it was not good. And for HBase, the ACL per namespace didn't work. So we eventually had to switch back to the POSIX permission and find another way to do it, even if it's not optimal.
But it works.
But it works. Yep.
So now that we have done that, as I told you, we want to go further. So we talked about the security, we talked about the availability of the system. Then we have to talk to the people that will come to the platform. And since we didn't want it to be the anarchy, we needed to set rules for that platform. So what we did is we wrote standard documents. How do you access the cluster? How do you develop on a cluster? Are there naming rules and standards? So we wrote all that for the people, for the project teams, as for the guy who explore the data. We also make support scripts to help the projects, to help the run department, because we support the projects and the run department on Hadoop. And a lot of communication, following the people and helping them. It's a big step. You know, Orange, it's formerly France Telecom, so I mean we have plenty of people, plenty of layers, plenty of databases all around the world. So I mean, Agile, it's not our first nature. So we have to help people, you know, come to it. And of course, explain that. So it's, you know, I mean, going with the people, it's a big part of the job. If you don't do it, it doesn't really work. So we somehow have our data lake, but the future, well, the future is finally to go back on the board. I mean, we were under the water, and we think we can come back on the board. But we have new subjects on the table. First of all, we definitely have to work on the SLAs. Today, we're still on HTTP 2.1.3, so no preemption. I mean, Yarn, it does a few things, but it's not really working. So we have to secure the response times of the applications. We have to secure the availability of the platform. So we really have to work on that very, very hard. As you have seen, security, it's not enough. I mean, it works, but it's not enough. If you want to have full audit of who has done what, you can't. You have to crawl over the logs and so on. So it's a lot of work. So we will definitely take a look at Ranger. I mean, it's one of our top priorities in the coming month. We also are going to migrate our cluster in a secure zone, I mean, network secure zone. So we will rely heavily on NOx to have the gateways to go access the cluster. And eventually, we have to work a lot on development methodology, because what we see is we need to upgrade the cluster every 4-6 months. Today, we can't do it because the non-regression test would take too long. So we definitely have to work with the projects to, to make that regression test as little as possible, and to be able to migrate a cluster, I mean, in a transparent way for the projects, and that's a lot of job. And all that is really to help the project deliver. That's our main mission, is they need to deliver. So we have to grant them the good tools, the good platform to do that. And it's, yeah, a lot of pressure because, as I think you all know, it's a little oversold. So they have great expectations, and the system is not always up to that expectations.
And because the project wants to deliver, putting new data, unlocking the data, they were on separate systems. Now we put it on the same system. It unlocks possibilities. It makes people coming say, okay, yesterday I was working on 10 gigabytes, on 100 gigabytes of data. Today there is several terabytes. Maybe we can do some interesting things. Let's see. The problem is that, as I explained, the existing tools, third-party tools, it's not always easy to integrate. So in parallel, we'll still continue. We started, and we still continue to look at new tools, new solutions. So for the streaming, ingestion, processing, usually it was it's taking a big file, putting the file, waiting a lot of minutes, half an hour, putting another one, extracting. So we plan to work on the streaming ingestion, streaming processing, so working with Spark, working with Storm, see how it can help us to help the project delivering faster, getting faster applications, better response time. The new tools for end users, also the data miners, report consumers, developers, and others. Actually, people coming to the cluster now are saying, okay, I want to use this tool, I want to chase this one, I want to do that. And we need to ensure that at least it won't break something, because there are other projects running in production on the same cluster. So it's important to ensure that it won't break something important. So we always have to cope, to run after the innovation and find the new tools and help users to implement it. And also the new development capabilities, so machine learning, graph processing, and other. We're exploring new ways of playing with, working with our data, but always in a secure way. Security matters a lot, and it's very important. It's several times a tool or for example Spark. Look at Spark, first step, okay, Spark streaming, oh great. What about Kerberos? Nothing. Okay, we put it aside. And what about Storm? Oh, it will integrate. Okay, let's look. And when Kerberos will be here, we'll check if we can, how we can use it. It's very, very important. The same for the editor tools. We cannot put something not secured on the cluster with sensitive data. It has to be, we have to find a way to secure the tool, to secure the framework or another thing before using it.
My management was very clear. On that platform, we can fail on many things, but not in security. That's the unforgivable thing is security leak and so on. So that's why we focus a lot on that. Thank you. If you have any questions. Actually, Falcon, I went to a presentation this afternoon, Falcon. Yes, but that's another next step, because yeah, we definitely have to do data lineage, auditing, and so on. So we will take a close look at Falcon.
What kind of third-party tool you use for implementing Kerberos?
What kind of support?
What kind of tools we use for
Oh,
Kerberos?
tools. Oh, we use free IPA. It's a software that packages several standard Kerberos tools. So we put it on a separate node on the cluster, and then it supports high availability, or at least master slave. So we implemented it like that. Not the Active Directory that you can have in standard in all companies. Simply because it's you can go farther without involving all the security stuff at first.
Thank you.
Presto. Presto. Quickly, yes, but not in depth. It rose from a project, actually, that said, oh, we can use Presto instead of Hive. Okay, but the deadline is very close, so maybe we can check it after you pass the deadline. And after the question did not arose, so we had other things on the stack, and we didn't go deeper inside. If the question comes back, in our process, the way we work, when something comes back, say, okay, we need to use it, or a project comes, say, okay, we want these technologies, we assess it deep to see how it works, what doesn't work, etc. For Presto, we didn't have any other questions about, so.
Hello. Yeah, I guess my question is similar. So have you considered using Hawk? I mean, considering now that you would be able to run it on top of Hortonworks, and it supports Kerberos, and it seems like it's going to be able to overcome both your initial requirements to mix. Yeah, you have right now hybrid Hive, and what was the solution on HBase for SQL you're using? Phoenix, no, not Phoenix.
No more.
Sorry? Simba.
We're just
Simba.
using an ODBC driver for Simba.
Simba, yeah.
From Simba on HBase.
But are you considering, for example, using something like Hawk, which seems, at least for me, that would be able to bring Hawk? This is pivotal Hawk. Yeah, this is SQL and Hadoop, and
yeah, but it's not over. I mean, it's not available yet.
actually, as it is already, but yeah, and you can run it even on top of Hortonworks, because it seems that's your partner. But yeah,
Yeah, but I mean,
we this offline, yeah. Sure.
yeah, we talked about it yesterday, and yeah, in fact, we will take a look at that also. We started really with the basic stack, you know, because we didn't want to go everywhere and find the good, you know, the best tool for the best thing, you know. We wanted something steady, and then we will take a look at what we can do. But first of all, just build something steady. And yeah, you're right. Now we have new questions like, once I've processed the data, I want to connect to it with reporting tools. I can't do that with Hive. How can I do that? I have a GUI. I want to connect. I can't connect it to Hive. Where can I connect it? So, yeah, all those questions need answers, and we are currently finding answers to those questions. Pardon me?
How big is your team?
My team, we are 7.5. Remy is a half. Because he's, I mean, I have 3 internal people from Orange. I have 3 people from Octo Technology, and I have Remy, who acts as a manager for those guys and a senior architect. So he comes half a week. So that's the size of my team, and we have the run department, who is about 5 or 6 people also.
And do you have in your team also data scientists?
No. We all the data science, the project development, and so on is in another department. My job is only to produce recommendations and to do the support. and the technology watch. That's my job. And I'm also responsible for the architecture, so we have to find the good components and to give them to the projects.
Do you find in Orange people who can program in the business units?
Yeah, we do find people to program. The thing is, we also rely on some Octo technology guys, but we have people programming. The main issue is with the business users who, I mean, they didn't really catch that if they want to play with Hadoop, they have to code, they have to put their hands in it. And so they're, pushing, and say, give me a tool. And I say, okay, I have no tool for you, you see? And it's, we are kind of fighting right now, but hopefully we will find a solution.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I work for Deutsche Telekom, and this is one of our main issues.
I guess so.
End users not having programming skills.
Did you make some penetration tests? Did you have to?
Actually, not yet, because as I told you, today the cluster is sitting on the plain network, so it's not very secure. So we implemented IP tables on the node and so on. So we did a big job securing it, but within a few weeks we will migrate all the cluster in the network area, which is totally secure. And once this is done, we will make intrusion tests. We will do a complete audit of the system. I think we have run out of time, so thank you very much.
Thank you.